Hey everybody, happy Saturday night. Today is October 18th, 2025, the final regular season game for the Philadelphia Union and the final regular season post-game show for Across the Pitch on AAT Sports Network. But today I'm joined by Jose Nunez right away. So Jose, take it away as I share social media and just give me your thoughts on the 2-0 defeat that we have tonight against Charlotte.
Yeah, hey, on the road again. This one is for fun with family out in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, just past Harrisburg. So, some much needed family time, to be honest with you, considering the amount of travel and work that I've been doing lately. So excited to hop on and be able to do it right away. I actually have MLS duty here in the next 30 minutes for the entire 9 o'clock slate of decision day. So this game, man, what a disaster is not the right word, because it is ultimately a game that didn't really move the needle for Philadelphia in a lot of ways. But the reality is that you don't want to go into the playoffs on a bad bounce, right? And unfortunately, that's what happened. Some suspect mistakes there in defense, right? Especially Kai being caught up upfield for the first one, just completely lobbed it right over him and sort of became a courtesy goal there for Charlotte. And then the second, just some, free open space and weird bounces that ultimately got there, a goal. So not a lot to take out of this one outside of just some defensive mistakes to maybe iron out going into the playoffs. But I just tweeted about it since I caught the end there. Full attention, caught the end. Wilfried Zaha, man, has to be one of the most talented players in this league for sure, but also one of the dumbest people ever. So deep in his own head to go and. I need to brush up and ask around, but I'm guessing he's suspended for at least the first match of the best of three.
So a lot to unpack for decision day in particular, but just to touch on that Zaha point right there. From my understanding, yellow cards would not roll over into the playoffs, but red cards do apparently roll over into the playoffs. So he
That
will
makes
be
sense.
missing. He will be missing one of the playoff matches. Well, the first playoff match between Charlotte and New York City FC. That looks what it's going to be the final adjustments of the table. I think that is set in place now. So, I mean, if you want to start with this going down the table, the Union in first place. Cincinnati pulls off a 3-0 victory against Montreal. They're at 65 points in second place. Miami beat Nashville earlier today. Jose, if you could text Jillian back, by the way, as I'm talking to you, saying yes, it's the same link. Miami, 65 points in third place. They're locked in that spot. So Charlotte will be in fourth. New York City's in fifth. Nashville's in sixth. Columbus and Chicago round this out. But Jose, one thing in particular that I think you and I are both a bit shocked by is Orlando is in the ninth place in the Eastern Conference. We've both said, I know you in particular said Orlando's a dangerous team to look out for, but they lose today to Toronto 4-2, and they find themselves in the wild card spot against Chicago, a tough Chicago
Yeah,
side.
yeah. No, and a Jack Elliott side in Chicago, right? A player that had 3 goals, 2 for his own team and 1 for against his own team just a week or 2 ago. I can't remember, but no, I think I think I still remain true to that. I mean, Orlando is one of those teams that's just streaky, and I know that the playoffs have a wide mark to get in more than ever, obviously with the new, the wild card play in and then the best of three. But
Yeah.
Orlando goes and wins against Chicago, and then it's maybe hard to deal with. The one thing that would be on the side of Philadelphia should Orlando be the team that they ultimately face is that going down to Orlando, you're no longer really dealing with the heat and humidity at this point in the season.
Great point.
So
absolutely.
Something that's been not necessarily a kryptonite for the Union since they did get it done down there, if I recall it, early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they got both of their games against them pretty early in the season. So something to keep in mind. But, I guess bringing it back to this game, man, just, man, I feel bad for our friends and friends of the show, the Matt Swift, David Gussler, and et cetera, of like, man, like so much talent with Zaha, but like dumb mistakes like this where like he won't get to enjoy that very first game at the very least of the playoffs.
Can I add something more significant to that? Pep Beal is out today with an injury.
Yeah.
So now
out for the season.
Is he out for the season?
Out for the rest of the season, I thought.
Okay, see, I've been so busy. I knew that he was out for today's match. I didn't know he was out for the season. So now you're missing. If I remember correctly, actually, I can look it on my phone. Why am I trying to guess here? So according to FOTMob, I'm gonna look at the stats real quick. Bear with me, everybody, as I kind of talk through this. Pep Biel has 11 assists and 10 goals, and you're telling me he's out for the year. And now Zaha, who has 10 goals and 5 assists, is out for their first match at home against New York City. So they're missing between Taklamadi, Biel, and Zaha. That's 30 goals combined between the three of them. And you're going to miss two of those players to start the playoffs. Yes, I know Charlotte's great at home. They have 13 wins this season at home, but absolutely nailed it, Jose. In a game where you cannot afford to lose a player, considering what you've already lost, Zaha just does. I saw the replay because I was driving home when it happened from Zeds. I'll
Yeah.
talk about Zeds in a minute because I thought it was a great time tonight, and I'll get to the comments as well in a minute. Thanks for everybody for being patient. Boneheaded, completely boneheaded. It reminds me of Jose Martinez with some of those like hot-headed moments, just times 1,000, because it was just the wrong time, the wrong moment, and it's going to cost the team dearly because if they lose that game and they have to go to New York City, I'm not that confident in them, frankly.
90th, 89th, 90th minute, getting caught up with Jesus Bueno, who speaks not great English. So I don't know what he said to him, to be honest with you, that would have, done that. Like just crazy. But, I know I got to run here, Mike, in the next minute or two, but like ultimately I think what this game unfortunately overshadowed by Zaha and his idiocy, but like so much to unpack, unfortunately, about a game where the Union just looked toothless, can't figure out how to work the low block that Charlotte put in there, because they are very much a transition team, and Carnell and Hildebrandt, his assistant coach, I think it's Mitch Hildebrandt, his assistant coach. I should know. I broke the news. They just need to figure out how to sort this out in the next week or two. Because if I'm a playoff team that draws the Union in the next round, at Chicago or Orlando, you kind of copy paste what Charlotte just did, right? And I know the atmosphere has a lot to do with it, but like it's did not look too difficult to stymie the Union today.
Yeah, and I get, and listen, I talked about this in my match preview as well. You have two teams that are in completely different mentalities. I don't care what. I applaud Carnell for saying the right things in his press conference. I'm glad he says we're staying focused, all that stuff. The reality is these are human beings who have human being emotions, and one team is desperate to lock in their fourth spot, considering their road form, and the other one is just a preseason game, basically. Just say, let's get our minutes in, let's get our legs feeling okay. Let's make sure we don't get injured. No red cards, etc. That's there is a mentality factor there, and frankly, as well, the Union have played in essentially quote unquote playoff matches for the past month or so, trying to get the supporter shield. So there's been this long stretch of games. You finally get the shield. You take this long break for international duty. I'm not surprised that they came out today flat, and that's where I feel a little bit better about this, Jose. Is that this game didn't really mean anything, but it to your point, I wish they would have at least shown up a little bit more and finished the job, because in the second half in particular, they had plenty of chances to score and they just flat out did not. So there you go. I think Jose's frozen. Maybe. I think he is. Okay. I was wondering why he wasn't.
Sorry, no, I'm here.
Okay. There you go. Okay, I got you.
I was looking at FOTMob. I remain a little disappointed in terms of substitutions. I wish Lukic would have came out. Obviously, I think if you're Carnell, you just let Bedoya run the full 90. You're not really going to utilize him in the playoffs. Why is Nate Harrell coming out for Frankie? Frankie played 4 out of the 4 matches full out of the 5 possible out in the World Cup. And luckily, fortunately, Danley came off, Milan came off, Ua came off, which is interesting. I guess the idea there is with strikers to sort of try to get them a goal, get them going, etc. So I don't know, man. I said it from the get-go. I wish, honestly, I don't know, that goalkeepers, I don't know. I wish Andrew Rick would have started, I guess. That would have been nice, that type of thing. Come here, buddy. You want to say hi?
And also, not to mention, yo, what's up, brother?
Hi.
Hi. Love it.
I
Perfect.
got to run.
All right, brother. I'll see you later. I'll get the
Yeah.
comments. See you, Jose.
Yeah.
All right. So Jose's out. Let's get first into. We're gonna talk about the starting 11. I'm gonna get the comments right now. As Valerie says here, Charlotte will play NYCFC first. Valerie, even with Zaha out, it's gonna be a great series for that. The best out of 3. I really think New York City has a chance to beat them, especially with Zaha missing that first match in Charlotte. And as you mentioned here as well, Miami beat Nashville 5-2. And you know what's funny with Nashville? For as good as they've played the Union this year, and I'd argue that maybe they didn't catch us in the best moments. You catch us off the Vancouver trip. Allegedly, some players were sick off that Vancouver trip. They beat us in the Open Cup. You have the heavily rotated squad in Nashville. They beat us there 1-0 because Makanya fouls Mukhtar in the late seconds of that match. And they beat us at Chester on an extremely windy day. The Union are still trying to find their footing there in the early parts of the season. So I never felt like Nashville got the best version of us, but they still have beaten us 3-0. Kudos to them. But Nashville has really gone downhill in the second half of the season. So they lose today 5-2 against Miami. I'm curious to see what version of Nashville we get for the playoffs, but they have talent. They have Serge, they have Mukhtar. Obviously, they're dangerous, and I'm not looking forward to playing them in the playoffs if we do. SC joins us tonight. Two preliminary thoughts. 1, Union side of East bracket is much easier than the bottom, in my opinion. 2, Union have to learn how to play better coming off an international break. That's 2 straight. They looked rusty. And yeah, I do think that the mentality of this match has to be put into that equation a bit too. When you go to Vancouver, again, if Carnell's alleging there's some illness going around the locker room, maybe that has something to do with it, the West Coast trip, I don't know. For today, I'm not as upset by the performance overall, but it's a good point. I mean, coming off a break, you want to see a bit more pep in your step, and you don't have that tonight. So I see where you're saying, SC. But if anything, if there was ever a match you want to kind of knock the rust off, it's going to be today when it really didn't matter whatsoever. Keep going down the list here. Joe mentions, but the nice thing is Zaha getting that red card. Yeah, that was the icing on the cake for tonight, despite the result. Good stuff there. And Valerie says that was the most satisfying moment of the match when Zaha gets taken out, etc. I apparently have to help send Jillian Almany, who wants to join us on tonight's show, the link for today. So I'm going to do that in real time as I talk about tonight. So I've talked about Zeds plenty of times in the past. I know I've worn gear for them, etc. If you have not yet gone to Zeds in Marlton, it's a great spot to watch Union game. The owners are Sons of Ben members, and they always have a great atmosphere throughout the match, or rather throughout the season, I should say. Bear with me here as I'm trying to do 2 things at once to get Jillian Almany on the show. If you're watching Jillian, I'm trying my best here. I got to find the right. Here we go. Okay. Send it over. See, when Jose leaves, now I have to freaking do 2 things at once. I'm so sorry. Okay. So I went to Zeds and Marlton tonight. Now, if you guys have noticed or see them on social media, they actually had a giveaway at halftime. So tonight, the bar was absolutely packed. It's not a big bar, but I think it had about 60, 70, maybe 60 people there tonight. And the Union, I guess, had provided them with stuff to give away. So they gave away like mugs, water bottles, decals, stickers, a pencil case, teddy bears. Like, it was just a wide variety of little knickknacks and giveaways that they provided tonight, which was really cool. They probably gave away 25 total things. But the most interesting thing tonight was the Union gave away a 2026 Sons of Ben membership package, which ends up costing about $40 in total. But lo and behold, I won it. So super excited about that. But Jillian and Kyle Almany. Jillian, I'm sorry. I realized that I sent over the link to the wrong channel earlier today. So when you said you couldn't find, like, what does she mean she can't find it? I looked at it just now. I'm sorry. That's my bad completely. But Jillian and Kyle are here today from the one team we agree on. Jillian, how are you feeling tonight? It's a weird loss. Like, it doesn't matter, but it kind of sucked. But what were your thoughts on tonight?
I'm not too worried, honestly. I've noticed the Union sometimes when they have a bit of a break, they aren't always as great. Yeah, I got this guy here, unfortunately. Him with his Minnesota Timberwolves shirt. Get out of here with that. By the way, Sixers beat them last night. I know it's preseason, but I'll take it. Anyway, So honestly, I didn't think they were terrible.
No.
Definitely it's a good time to work out some of the kinks, I think, and just kind of get momentum back. I'm actually glad they had this game and then can get a little momentum going back into the playoffs. Rather than, let's say, if they had like a first round bye, which doesn't
Right.
exist anymore. So
Right.
yeah.
You went there.
Yeah.
And then look at the lineup. Just first and foremost, you have Bruno Damiani, you have Michael Ua, Olaski, Lukic, Danley. Alejandro Bedoya was a surprise start today, and we'll talk about him in a second. We have Kai Wagner, McConaughey, Glessons, Harriel, and Andre Blake. Jose touched upon this a little bit before he signed off. He had to take care of MLS duties. Actually, let me do the bench real quick. You have Vasily Baribo, Sullivan, Kevin Sullivan, Westfield, Bueno, hold on, Rick, Olivier, Bender, and Chris Donovan. Now, a part of me was like concerned on the inside about Andre Blake on a turf.
Mhm.
I don't know how you felt. Would you have rather seen Rick tonight, or are you kind of glad that Andre Blake kind of gets that warm up game before the playoffs?
Yeah, on one hand, I was said on our pod, I think I'm like, I don't want to see Andre Blake anywhere near that turf
Yeah.
because we hate that turf. But at the same time, you also kind of want to see him stay sharp and get that work in. So I was okay with it. Thankfully, no injuries, but it does make you nervous with Andre. And Andre, he did a good job. He had some real good saves tonight. I think
He did.
it was good to get him out there. So I was okay with that in the end. Obviously, hindsight because no injuries.
No, I thought Blake was phenomenal.
Mhm.
Outside of that, I think it was the second goal. I was like, yeah, he could have done a little better, and that's fair. Goalkeepers are going to be goalkeepers, right, Mike? We've
right.
seen that. Yep. There's rocky moments, but at the end of the day, he made two big saves. One at the end of the first half, one in the second. Kept the Union in the game, and again, yeah, the defensive performance was poor tonight, but just getting off with Bradley, I mean, he sung not Mikel. Well, he did sing Mikel's praises, but McConney's praises. He sung them.
Yeah.
He's like, we've asked him to do
Mhm.
all we can, and he's done more. And that, along with the rest of the defensive line, he didn't blame him for those goals. It was just like, hey, is what it is, and we got to move on to playoffs, and that's kind of my thought right now. Yeah, you want to see a little bit better creation, sure. There were some times like, why are we shooting, like 20 yards out of the box and kicking field goals?
I'm like, I know it's a football stadium, but we don't need to try to kick a field goal.
Didn't it feel like every single shot they had on target was something that was just skied over the net from
And I don't know
20
if it
yards
was-
out?
Was it because of the turf maybe at all? But like
also
a little
it was
bit.
credit to, and sorry to interrupt there, it was credit to
Yeah.
Charlotte's low block. They were blocking them so much, and defensively, they deserve the 3 points to move off on the night, and it is what it is. We're going to see this more in the playoffs, and
Yeah.
hey,
The consolation was seeing Zaha get sent off, though. I'm not gonna lie.
No, and that seems to be the consensus cherry on top of tonight's performance. But if you're looking at how we entered today's match, Raffanello obviously out with a hamstring injury. He's still lingering with that. Of course, Quinn Sullivan torn ACL. He's not going to be playing. So I knew that Danley, Ty, and Frankie were all coming off international duty. I was hoping that Danley would have gotten more rest than what he did. I was hoping that Kai maybe could have gotten some rest. Whatever, he did not. I'm glad that Ty at least played 45 minutes, got his legs under him, and same with Frankie. But I was just I was hoping that we would have seen a little bit more Bueno. I wouldn't have mind if he started the game and played the 90 minutes. And even Olivier, let Nathan get some rest as well. Maybe just mix things up. Maybe put Nathan on the left back, take Kai out, put Olivier there as well. So there was a few things I would have liked to seen. I thought overall, Kyle, to your point, from a defensive standpoint, the second half, I felt like the Union had more control of the ball and in their own on the Charlotte half. I thought they had the better chances in the second half,
right.
And they seemed to kind of settle into the match once the second half came around. At least the first half was maybe more back and forth, but the second half was like the Union looked like they can get a goal or so. They just couldn't finish, and maybe that's because the emotion wasn't there like it has been for the last 2 months. Maybe it's because of the turf. Maybe it's just whatever. Maybe Charlotte just did the right things. I don't know. I mean, but for me, Jillian, I don't know how you felt, but it just it doesn't bother me as much. But I wish we could have had at least
No.
one in the second half to at least cap it on a good note.
And
Yeah.
like Valerie said, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
there.
Kyle.
Well,
Let's cut me off.
okay, go.
Yeah.
I was gonna go to Valerie's point there.
But yeah, no, Cavan did look good. I will say that he had a nice shot too, and he said
He did.
he had some nice passes, set up some things. So I thought he did pretty well actually. It'll be interesting to see if he gets in Union 2's playoff game at all tomorrow. But yeah, I thought he held his own, so that was a positive. And honestly, like, yeah, now Kyle interrupting me made me lose my train of thought anyway. So
Also,
With
gonna
the
say,
mentality of the game, maybe.
yeah.
well, no, my whole thing was if the Bedoya goal goes in and
Oh yeah.
and it counts, say we get a break,
Mhm.
you're up 1-0. This game takes on a whole nother level, and
Yeah.
maybe another goal, 2 goes in, and that's the thing. Like Todd said right here, the positive
Yep.
thing is they build off the second half.
Yeah.
No, and I think it's clear. Indy changed them as much as we say, what does Indy do? Tonight was a perfect example of how he can change a match and what Carnell loves in him. And
Yeah, he was good.
I mean, at the end of the day, yes, I said that's one. Oh,
That's
that's it
two.
too.
That's two.
Okay, sorry. Well, anyway,
He says that a lot on our pod for those who don't
well,
know.
yes, well, most of them.
No,
listen.
Todd, I think segued us perfectly into this.
Yeah.
You're not going to start Alejandro for any playoff match,
Right.
Pending injury. And we've been very hard on Indy Vasiliev, I think, throughout the season. Maybe not hard's not the right word. I think our expectations are
Just a
that
little critical.
Yeah, we've been critical of Indy Vasiliev, and I think rightfully so. I think he's had some moments on the offensive side of the ball where he
Yeah.
holds on to it too much. He obviously doesn't have the same creativity approach as Eloski or Quinn Sullivan could, but I think he's progressively gotten a little bit better. And you look at the stretch against the Red Bulls in the Open Cup time frame of the schedule. You look at it recently as well. He's done better. He has stepped up recently, and as Todd says, he is a must start. And I think him and Milan together are high energy. Of course, Milan takes the edge on the creativity, but they're going to press really well together behind the forwards. I
For
think
sure.
I think Indy Vasiliev is one of those players that actually, as Todd says here, Vasiliev is going to run into space and has a knack at being at the right place, the right time, high soccer IQ. Yeah, absolutely agree with you there, Todd, 100%. You can tell that he feels comfortable in Carnell's system. You can tell that Carnell trusts him, and frankly, you're going to need someone like that come playoff time who's just going to be at the right place at the right time, because margins are thinner come playoff time. They're not going to be, every single mistake that the other team makes, you can capitalize on. And if there is a mistake, having someone who has a high IQ, who is in the right spot, could make a difference. And we've seen that throughout the season. We were going to see it again in about a week or so with the playoffs. But I mean, Kyle or Jillian, any thoughts on Vasiliev's performance in particular tonight?
Mike, would you
Yeah.
say that the margins are razor thin?
Razor thin, that's curtain.
Razor thin.
Razor
That's what I'm like.
No,
razor thin.
but to get to your point, we get annoyed by how Indy holds on to the ball when Damian, Bariba make a run, or anybody
Mhm.
makes a run on the ball, and he's dribbling up, the midfield, and you're like, come on, just drop it off. But yeah, when he's on and his creation, and like Todd said, and his ability to run in space, it's high energy. And is your cat?
I was
okay?
wondering, is that your cat?
That's my cat. I don't know if
Is
you
that
guys
first I'm
hear.
thinking, is that one of our cats? But
No, he's
yeah,
just
that's your cat.
meowing like crazy. I don't know why, but go ahead, guys. It's-
Yeah.
No, I think that's the thing. Like, he is a very high IQ player.
Mhm.
We bust on him because he holds on to the ball too long, but at the end of the day, when he is when he's holding on to the ball
Pause.
too long, yes, yeah. Jillian's being
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
no, it's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, what Kyle said though, but honestly, I think he can prove to be really key here moving into the playoffs. And honestly, like, I'm not too worried. Like, I think when they get back into Subaru Park and the
Mhm.
crowd's hopefully going in, they're gonna, like, I think, get that mojo right back.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about from tonight.
I'm
Honestly.
not worried about today either. And actually, one player in particular that I was hoping would have gotten more time today is Ben Bender. I know Bender's probably not going to be a significant impact player off the bench for the playoffs. I would be surprised if he saw significant time, but Bender doesn't get any minutes today. However, with Raffanello hurt, obviously we know that Quinn Sullivan's not available. I was hoping just to see Bender get some minutes just for the sake of seeing what he can do and continuing his momentum. As Bradley Carnell mentioned, I want to say 3 weeks ago in a press conference, he's like, one thing that Bender has done better in training is his versatility, his approach to playing, I guess, across the formation. So against his former team, yeah, selfishly, would I would like to see Bender get some time and see what he could do? Sure. But I'm fine with it. I'm curious to see how if he does find a spot on the bench come playoff time, but I don't know. I mean, Jillian, would you want to see Bender tonight? I feel like everybody who played tonight was fine. Maybe get Lukic off. But I was just kind of hoping to see a 10 or 15 minutes from Bender.
I mean, I wouldn't have minded it. It was good to see, him get some time in DC, but like, yeah, we haven't gotten to see too much from him lately. And in this game that honestly doesn't matter as much. Yeah, I wouldn't have minded it seeing him play against them. So, but I was also good with the subs that happened as well.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a couple seconds. Well, were you in the Bradley Carnell press conference tonight?
Yeah, I listened to it anyway. I wasn't in it, but
what were some key talking points from Coach tonight?
I mean, there weren't it wasn't real long, honestly. But Todd was on there, so I missed the beginning of it, but Kyle's talking downstairs. Yeah, I mean, Kyle asked about what he thought about Frankie and Mikanya and Carnell was like really positive about how they did, so that was good. There was talk about Kevin with how he did, which was good. So and honestly, like, it's been a long day, so I'm like forgetting some of the things that were talked about. I mean,
I think the Kevin thing is actually pretty interesting, because if you remember earlier in the year when the team had some heavy rotation with international duty, etc., we saw at one point, I want to say it's a Nashville game on the road. It might have been Columbus on the road. I think it was Nashville.
It was Nashville on the road.
We saw Kevin for like he got like 45 minutes in or so, maybe a little bit more. And there was a good stretch in the middle part of that season where we saw Kevin Sullivan a bit more often. He goes to Man City. He gets his like 2-week trial with Man City for that training period. Apparently, he comes back high energy, high confidence. Everybody said how great he looked in training, but then we never saw him since that point when he went to training for Man City till now. Kevin's played maybe 1 or 2 games, if that, and obviously the minutes have been pretty limited overall. I was happy to see him get extended time today, and I think with the comments I mentioned as well, as along with what you said here, I think Kevin looked good. There was a point where he, I think it was one of his shots, or his across into the box. He gets the ball, he kind of plays with it for a second, he gets into the box, he finds, I think it was Brebo for a shot on net. I'm like, that looks like a MLS caliber move. It didn't look like a teenager out there. For a brief moment, I forgot how old he was, because it was just the right move at the right time, a great pass, put enough effort onto the pass. But again, with Raffanello possibly on the mend, with, of course, Quinn out, our midfield depth is a bit hit. Buena's aren't going to play attacking mid. Alejandro Bedoya, although reliable, not the fastest player anymore. There is the genuine chance that Kevin Sullivan could see some time. And I think for me personally, maybe, I don't know how you feel, I was encouraged by his performance tonight.
Yeah, no, I thought he held his own. I thought that was one of his better performances when he's gotten minutes with the first team. And, he hasn't been getting much time with them lately, but he also was getting time with Union too. So there was that. And they were fighting for, of course, their playoff positioning. So, but yeah, I thought he did a really good job. And he's been growing into that, of course, being 16 and all, but you see why he is, why he belongs there. He does sometimes, it seems like Union too, even sometimes is maybe he needs a little more challenge, but yeah, I thought it was really encouraging, honestly. So yeah, why not give him some time? Maybe he'll play with Union 2 tomorrow, and then that's going to be it, because, the World Cup. So
our pal Renee, who was actually on a podcast recently. It was like Raymundo. I'm trying to remember the guy's name right now. I have it on my Spotify. It was like Raymundo's Doc or something. He was just on a show. Renee, if you're watching still, you did great, by the way. And the podcast came out great. But he mentioned on Twitter, he commented on the show, says, happier seeing Cavan over Bender. The former might not be with us next year. The latter definitely won't. And I think that's a good point. You know, you're going to see who's going to be here long term. Cavan is more long term than Bender, but at the same time, he could also not be here much longer than that. Actually, Jillian, you bring up the Union 2 point. I was curious about how much time Cavan was going to get today, considering the U2 playoff game. But so, if you want to prep us a bit for Union 2 playoffs, which starts tomorrow. I mean, they're also pretty high seed on the Eastern Conference as well.
Yeah, they're the 2 seed, and they're playing against FC Cincinnati 2 tomorrow, which will be the 4th time they faced them. And so, and for those who aren't familiar with MLS Next Pro, they have a pick your opponent format. So the top 3 teams get to pick their opponent. They start with the 1st seed. So Red Bulls 2, they picked first. They chose the 8th seed, Carolina Core, which was no surprise. And then Union 2, they chose to go with Cincinnati, which, I mean, we talked to Ryan Richter about this yesterday, what went into the choice. And for them, it was between really Cincinnati and Chicago. And they went Cincinnati. I mean, they've beaten Cincinnati the 3 times they faced them. But 2 of them were kind of close, too, that could have gone either way, as he said. But so it should be a good matchup. I know Cincinnati's been in good form, but 4 p.m. tomorrow at Subaru Park, and hopefully, people get down there and show up because it should be good. And so it's the quarterfinals. And I think, you notice there's not really, besides Cavan and Andrew Rick, there weren't really any guys that ever feature with Union 2 on the lineup today. So they're they're going for it. And they're pumped. They're ready. I think this one's big because they're going to lose some guys. If they proceed into the playoffs, they're going to lose 4 guys to the U17 World Cup. So,
do you remember off the top of your head who's going to be missing?
So besides Cavan, it's going to be Kellen LeBlanc, and it's going to be Jameer Johnson and Jordan Griffin. So I mean, midfielders, for a bunch of them. But then Jordan Griffin, I think, is a big one too, with being left back. So, but they have players, as Ryan told us, it's like we have a good team. We have options and guys that can step up and, when they get a chance there. So some real good guys to keep an eye on for sure. But they should have pretty much everyone tomorrow.
This is how today's Union match really meant not too much, because we're just gonna have a Union 2 marathon right now.
I will be happy to plug Union 2.
I love it. No, this is great because they don't get enough recognition. I know.
They really don't.
I know you guys have done fantastic work covering them for about a year and a half now. Really, maybe a little more than that. Our own Quentin Hall has covered them a bit this season as well. And actually, just really quick, Renee mentions Raymundo Football is the name of the podcast. So thank you, Renee, for adding that in there. But in terms of also just another thing we should probably highlight regarding Union 2, Neil Pierre gets the Defender of the Year for MLS Next Pro.
Yes.
And I know we don't see him a lot in the first team, obviously, when we saw him against Vancouver, but how important it is to have a defender like that entering the playoffs. The guy's just playing at a great level. Even though MLS isn't the highest level, he's still playing well and he's still earning recognition.
Yeah, no, he's been fantastic. And Ryan Richter talked about that yesterday. And just, when you look at who would you want back there as defender, nobody else besides him. He's been great. But also, I know Richter said about how the teammates really were a great part of that too. And Neil thanked his team because not only was Neil fantastic, but then he's paired with Rafael Uzcategui, who is, for people who don't know who this kid is, he's been fantastic on the back line. They're just their whole, their defense. They have the best goal differential in Next Pro. So I'm going to say, I think they had the fewest goals allowed too. And when you consider they have had a rotating cast of goalkeepers, they've had 5 different goalkeepers this season. I mean, Rick has been in there at times. Rick, I think, has given up the most goals out of the goalkeepers, but I think it's just his mindset changes when he's down at that level. But but you had Oliver Zemla was in there a little bit. Pierce Holbrook was in there. George Marks, who I would expect probably George Marks tomorrow, who, by the way, got save of the year for Next Pro when he was still with Crown Legacy.
Awesome.
So he came up from there. But it's yeah, they're really exciting to watch. And I think, yeah, like it's definitely worth tuning into or getting down there, like even more importantly for people who maybe are considering it, because they definitely, like the first team, they have that grit, the tenacity, and they're exciting to watch.
As Valerie mentions here, that's fascinating that Rick has given up the most for you too, considering how well he's played for us in the first team. I mean, just your opinion alone, we know the Union 2 made MLS Next Pro Cup, or the final, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Last season, comparing the two squads, obviously you have a lot of experience. Which one do you think is the better squad, last year's team or this one, who's again very well seated in the playoff?
Well, it's really interesting you asked that, because I mean, last year was stacked. Those players, It was stacked. And you had guys, that you see up in the first team now with Frankie and Makanya, especially those guys getting to really blossom. But you have a lot of the team intact, and they've gotten stronger in some places too. They've actually surpassed how many points they had last year. Like when you look at those stats, they're stronger this year. It felt like last year's team maybe was more stacked, though they were really, really young. But, on paper, you look at this year's team and, the stats are there. They might be stronger, but you just never know. And it's interesting. I feel like Ryan Richter has gotten so much out of this squad this year. So, I mean, that's a real testament to that coaching staff. I think they've been great with them.
Absolutely. I'm about to actually look right now, MLS Cup playoffs bracket, as we're talking about this, kind of looking back at the first team as well. But the reason why I'm segueing back to the MLS Cup playoffs is it is very unique, and we saw some discussion on Twitter about this. It's super unique the way the MLS Next Pro has their playoff structure, where you can pick your team, which is I can't think of another league right now who does that. I mean, if you're, let's just say, put yourself in the coach's perspective for 1 second. Do you pick a team that you feel more confident against, or do you pick a team that you want to maybe beat that might be more on par with you? Because I think either way, whichever team you select, there is some sort of like, oh, wow, you don't think we're good enough to beat you type of mentality from the team who gets selected. So it's such a mind game with who you end up picking. I don't know how you guys would approach that.
Yeah, no, like last year, Marlon LeBlanc chose, I think, he chose NYCFC too, and they weren't like the set, because Union 2 were second last year. They got the second pick, but they didn't choose like the 7th seed. I want to say NYC was either 5th or 6th, something like that. So, and it was like, oh, but Marlon's like, no, I like how we match up. And he chose right, because they ended up winning that, obviously. And it's funny because I think it was Cincinnati last year were the top seed, and they chose, I think, the 8th seed, and they got bounced in the first round. So you just never know how it could work out. So, but yeah, it's really, really interesting how they do that. And then the next round, they choose again, and for the next round, whoever like is the top seed going into the next round gets to choose, and then it goes from there. So,
and that's an interesting perspective from a home field advantage from what you've earned. So, I mean, the one thing that, I kind of don't like about this new playoff format is that there is no first round bye. I do think that having a week off to rest and recover is really important. And it really gives you a purpose to get higher up into the seedings, to get that opportunity to play whoever you want at your home arena. Whereas for the MLS playoff format now, you have that like play-in round, which I think is kind of dumb, but whatever. And then you just go into the best of 3, which I think is even more dumb, because it's not like baseball. If you want to do a home and home aggregate total, that's one thing. I can be for that.
I'd be down with that.
Yeah, that's a soccer thing already. Like that's their own type. I get that. But to have a best of 3 just seems like you're punishing a number 1 seed in a way, because now, like, yeah, if you win at home, great. You're expected to win at home, but now you got to go back to wherever you got to play that game. If they win that game because it's in their home arena, now you got to come back and like do it again. It just seems like you're not really giving the higher seeds an actual advantage, except for they get to have essentially 2 home playoff games. But again, segueing back into the first team a bit here, I'm looking at the playoff picture now on MLSsoccer.com. Chicago and Orlando are playing on October 22nd. The winner of that match will play against Philadelphia in the round of 3, best of 3. The rest of the playoff picture for the Eastern Conference is already set. super, super exciting matchup between Cincinnati and Columbus. They are the 7th seed and the 2nd seed. And then you have Miami and Nashville will essentially be a rematch from tonight. And of course, against Charlotte and New York City. So first and foremost, Jillian, who do you want to see? Chicago, Orlando. Second thing, who scares you the most in the Eastern Conference? Because there's so many teams right here that I do not want to play, but also feel kind of confident in.
Yeah, I mean, I know Orlando hasn't been in their best form, so I would say maybe them and Union have matched up with them better. And Chicago, they're one that they, again, Union could match up well with them. So I think either way, it's not the worst situation. Kyle and I were talking, it was like, we don't want any part of Nashville there for that first round, and Nashville's probably the one that worries me more just with how they've had Union's number a bit this season. And we were asked this when we were on the Brotherly Love FC on Fox 29.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, but like it's like like we're both like Nashville. Yeah, that one obviously would probably worry me the most. But honestly, if with having home field advantage, I feel a little bit better about things. I think that's huge. But honestly, I would say Nashville.
And again, just for people who are not watching, who don't have the standings in front of them, they'll kind of just better paint this picture. The winner of the winner of Chicago, Orlando goes to Philly. Whoever wins between Philly and one of those teams will play either Charlotte or New York City. On the other side of the Eastern Conference bracket, you have Miami versus Nashville, Cincinnati versus Columbus. So if, again, going back to your point with who do you not want to play, I agree with you. I think Nashville just plays as well. Nashville would have to beat Miami in a round of in the best of 3, and then they'd have to either beat Cincinnati or Columbus at one of those locations. Let me see. No, Nashville would host Columbus, but they would not host Cincinnati. Either way, both of those are all 3 of those teams are tough matchups in general. So if Nashville were to make it that far where they get to the Eastern Conference final against Philadelphia, they will have gone through a gauntlet just to get there. But you look, I talked about this before you hopped on as well. Nashville really has not had a strong second half of the season. Besides their 3 games against the Union that they've won, they went through like a good stretch where they just could not tie a game when they kept losing. So Nashville's not exactly entering the playoffs in good form, and they just lost tonight to Miami. Was it 5-2?
5-2. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do believe that Miami will beat them in the best of 3, just because of how they enter the playoffs. That's kind of my approach for it. But going back to my question to you, Chicago and Orlando. I don't want to play Chicago. I don't. I think they're an underdog in this Eastern Conference. I think they play very well on the road, which we saw already throughout the season. Offensively speaking, though, they have been a good offensive team the entire year. They're like probably off the top of my head, they're probably top 5, top 6 in MLS in scoring production. They're not a bad squad, and I do think that if we get them in the best of 3, they could potentially beat us. I don't think Orlando beats us, but I do think Chicago can beat us. And then after that, I don't know what your thoughts are between Charlotte and New York City. Who would you want to host in Subaru Park?
Well, hosting either of them, I think even though Union just lost to him, I kind of would feel better about Charlotte.
Really? Why do you think that is?
Just because the history with NYC, but
that's completely fair. I get it.
Yeah. Because it's like a tight game with them all the time. But Charlotte wasn't that much easier either, like at home, But yeah, I like the chances better at home because they're not playing on the stupid turf, which should be outlawed. Stupid turf. I'm just glad there's no injuries.
No, again, that goes back to my point with Blake. I was worried about him on a turf, just considering how sensitive his body has been. But SC mentions here, Nashville has got a lot to do to play in the East Finals. Yeah, they have a lot to do. Yeah, exactly. and Valerie says Messi has a hat trick tonight. That doesn't surprise me. I believe Messi will be the Golden Boot winner for MLS as well. But I think the thing that worries about me with Miami is that it's Busquets and Jordi Alba's final season in general. soccer players. They're retiring after this season. So a part of me is like, they're one last hurrah together as a trio. Of course, you have Suarez in that mix again. But Miami has shown, and especially in that match between Chicago and Miami this year, that kind of gave the Union the opportunity to win the Supporter Shield. And Renee says on Twitter, I do want to play Chicago. So yeah, I'm curious. If Renee, if you can comment on Twitter why you want to play Chicago, let me know. Of course, Miami's a big one. They're going to get all the attention. What are your thoughts on Miami? Because I think we can beat them. We saw earlier in the year that we could compete with them, but at the same time, they have that firepower that kind of frightens me.
Yeah, on one hand, I don't want the whole circus coming to town because that's annoying, for a playoff game especially. But I mean, Miami's been exposed. Their defense and their goalkeeping's not that good. But the problem is they're very dangerous on the attack, and you have obviously Messi and all that. But Chicago was able to expose them. You can do it. Just it's all how these teams match up, and honestly, the way that the Union matched up with them this year, I mean, they weren't out of that match down in Miami. And then, of course, they had to go and let them come back at the home match. But, I think it would be a good match. I honestly still would rather not have the whole circus coming to town, though, and have to deal with that, to be quite honest. So I think that's what stands out to me the most. But, yeah, look at how the way some teams have exposed their defense, and I think that's what you got to do.
Yeah, the Chicago match between Miami. I don't know if you were able to watch that match, but
yes, I was all in. I was a big Chicago fan that night.
We were all Chicago Fire fans that night. I think what was crazy to me is that Miami controlled most of that match, and they really had so many chances to put away, but Chicago just found a way that when they got the ball in the attack, when they got the ball in the counter, they just picked them apart. Boom, 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 boom. They did not need a lot of chances to score. They saw the opportunities. They went. And again, that's two things for me. One, that gives me hope against Miami that we can find holes in their defense and exploit them. At the same time, that's another reason why I don't want to play Chicago, because they have the ability to find those openings and just kill you. Renee actually mentioned here on Twitter, I do want to play Chicago. We were eating them alive when they were trying to play out of the back. I'd rather not play Orlando, but then them getting rolled by Toronto was promising. Chicago trying to play out of the back played directly into our strengths the last time we played them, and I don't see them changing that. And yeah, listen, despite Chicago's offensive output that we've seen throughout the year, we've actually shut them out twice this year too. So there is also that silver lining there if we do happen to play the Fire. And honestly, seeing Jack Elliott one more time would be kind of fun too. I don't know if you have any sentimental feelings there, getting Elliott in the best of 3 series.
No, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, with Chicago too, it's all how these teams match up, honestly.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I think that this is probably the best scenario, either having Chicago or Orlando. But I mean, definitely there's things with Orlando too that stand out. It's like, but yeah, Chicago's just been so good on the road. That's just what would worry me a little bit. But I wouldn't be too worried. So
no, I absolutely agree. For the Western Conference, things are kind of settling in. I know Vancouver is playing against FC Dallas tonight. Vancouver has 63 points. They're in first place in the Western Conference. San Diego FC, who had a great, first inaugural season in MLS, they're in second place. LAFC, Minnesota, Seattle Sounders, Austin FC, Portland, Dallas, and Salt Lake round out the remaining part of the Western Conference bracket. In particular, Dallas playing against Vancouver tonight. They are 3 points behind Portland for the 7th seed. Portland plays San Diego tonight at 9:00. So if Portland were to tie or lose and Dallas were to win, they'd be tied at 44 points. Now, they both have 11 wins. I'm not sure off the top of my head what's the tiebreaker past wins.
I think after wins it is goal differential, I think.
Okay, interesting. This could potentially even be a third goal differential thing if it gets to this. So, third tiebreaker rather. Excuse me. So Dallas has 10 wins. Portland has 11 wins. Portland has -3 goal differential. Dallas has -4 goal differential. So I'm trying to think of a scenario in my head right now where they'd be tied for wins and possibly even tied for goal differential. I don't know if that would be I guess if Dallas were to win 1-0 and Portland were to just lose, I guess I don't know. I don't think there's a scenario where that happens. Either way, point being, Dallas has a very slim chance to kind of leap Portland into that 7th spot and then put Portland into the wild card round against Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake, actually, I'm surprised they have fallen so far down to the table. Colorado was another one. Paxton Harrison, of course, with Colorado. They play LAFC tonight at 9:00. They are currently tied at 40 points with Salt Lake, but of course, Salt Lake is in that 9th spot. So if Colorado wins and Salt Lake loses, they play against St. Louis at 9:00. Then we could see Paxton Aronson sneaking into the playoffs with the Colorado Rapids. So a lot going on in the West. I know the East is kind of put together now, but there's a lot of movement that can still happen with the Western Conference. Now, I know we don't watch the West nearly as much as we watch the East, but anyone in particular that frightens you out of that conference?
Vancouver.
Is that the obvious answer?
That's the obvious one. By the way, Flyers just scored.
Nice.
So let's go. But and by the way, just side note real quick, the
Sure.
tiebreakers, after total wins, it's goal differential, then goals scored, then disciplinary points, then coin toss / drawing of lots. So there you have it. That's what it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, honestly, Vancouver and LAFC, those two I think are the most dangerous. I mean, with LAFC, they're kind of a force right now. I'm almost more worried about them just with how Bawanga and Son have been paired up, what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, those two, I think while the East is a potential bloodbath, the West is more of like, Vancouver, LAFC. And then, San Diego's done a really good job for their inaugural season. Wouldn't it be wild though if like it was San Diego and then David Vasquez was, he's a part of that.
Olofsky with the game winner in the
And
MLS
Olofsky though,
final.
yeah. But I'm really glad though that no matter what, if the Union do get to the MLS Cup, it will be at Subaru Park this time.
Yeah,
So, I mean, can you imagine like a rehash of 2022, but at Subaru Park, as we all wish it would have been? And wild the fact that the tiebreaker actually helped the Union this time with it not being goal differential.
Well,
and
yeah,
being wins.
if it had not been that case, if it was goal differential, today would have been a must draw at least. Because Vancouver, if they won, would have ended up winning the Supporters Shield today. But you mentioned LAFC, and I think it's a good point. Obviously, we don't talk about the West that often. Of course, this is predicting something that could happen in a couple of weeks. But it is a great point by you how well LAFC has played. So they lost to Austin FC on October 12th, 1-0. Before that, they had 6 straight wins. Since dating back to September 13th. So between September 13th and October 8th, they had 6 straight wins. I don't care who you are. That's beyond impressive, especially in this league when traveling, the congested schedule, etc. That's really, really actually we had one of their weeks they had 3 games in 8 days and they pulled off 4-2, 4-1, 4-1 victories. Absolutely fantastic stuff. So Valerie says here, in the same world, it will be the Union hosting LAFC on 6th of December. That would be very much. We talked about this when we interviewed Ray Dunn, Jose, and I earlier this month. We had talked about the mirroring of 2022, right? 2022, the Eagles go to the Super Bowl. You Phillies, obviously the Union MLS Cup. But this, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they played the Chiefs again. So wouldn't it be funny if we lose to the Chiefs in 2022, we beat them in 2024, 2025, like we just did, and then LAFC comes to Subaru Park this time around, just like the perfect stars aligning there. But honestly, if I were to beat anybody in MLS Cup, I think I'd want to beat LAFC. I don't know about you, but just to get that lick back,
exercise that demon. Oh my goodness, yeah, like. I was saying to Kyle, I'm like, the Eagles winning the Super Bowl this year just helped me forget 2022, like get that, that sting away. It's like, okay, now that demon has been exercised, that monkey's off the back.
Mm-hmm.
Union need to do the same thing, but just winning MLS Cup period would do that. But if they did it against LAFC at Subaru Park, that would be something.
And that was almost one reason why I wanted to see NYCFC in the Eastern Conference Finals when we did go to the MLS Cup. Because not only did the Union lose against NYC the year before, but it felt just so unfair. It felt so Philly. It was so much like quote unquote that's so Union that we were to get COVID at some party or whatever it might be, and like 11 of our players were absent that day. It just felt like the world had turned against us that day. And even then, we had a 1-0 lead against NYC. I think Casper was the one who scored that goal to make it 1-0 before we lost at Subaru Park. But as much as I like hated them, I wanted to get that chance back at them to beat them. We ended up beating them going to MLS Cup Finals. So yeah, I can see why you'd want us to play LAFC. And it's the same way I felt about the Eagles. When the Eagles went to the Super Bowl and they beat Tom Brady back in 2017-18, it's like, yeah, they ripped my heart out when I was 10 years old, back when McNabb was a quarterback. I want to get that revenge game. And I think that's, and I know that not a lot of the Union players from that 2022 squad are still here with us today. But God, like imagine Alejandro Bedoya, Kai Wagner, Jacob Glessner,
Andre, all those guys,
how good that would feel to get that second chance.
Yeah, and I would love to see them do that with LA. I mean, this could potentially be it for him, so. And LA didn't get to play in the MLS Cup either, let's remember. And
oh my
he
God,
was
I
injured.
forgot.
And it makes you wonder, like, could he have been, played a role in there? But I know, like he was saying post game after they won the Shield, I want the freaking cup,
Yeah.
And boy, would that be a way to, maybe end his career if he chooses to be done, But man, like that would be sweet.
Well, listen, I mean, talking about just this playoff run and the attention this team's getting. You two were on Brotherly Love FC, which is on Fox 29's channel. So if you want to share some thoughts on that, I watched it was like a 30-minute kind of episode there. You guys had a good chunk of that. What was that experience like? How did you guys even get on that show? Like, just tell me the story here as we're talking to end this show.
Yeah, no, they reached out to us and invited us to come on. So they. Awesome. Yeah, so they have been doing this. I think we might have been maybe their 5th episode or so. They've just started this recently. They had Sebastian Letou on. They had Alejandro Bedoya on. They've had Nate Harriel on. So they've had some Union players and people on. But they also kind of highlight some local soccer things too.
Yeah.
So they're trying to, gear up for the World Cup next year. So they're covering soccer. So it's a live stream on YouTube that they do. But yeah, so I took a half day off work and we went down and I met up with Kyle at Subaru Park there at the grounds because he was down for training. And yeah, we went in the city and, it was really awesome getting to see their whole setup with the studio and everything. And Tom and Chris, the guys who were on there with us, they were great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was really great to talk soccer with them. And, so they have a nice program there. And for anyone listening, if you haven't checked it out, definitely check out Brotherly Love FC. Yeah, it's on YouTube. So we've shared it on our channels as well. So yeah.
It segues me into something that's actually pretty significant. I think mainly not just for, I think soccer in general in the United States, but I think for what we do every single week with independent media, content and writing and all that stuff. It's like one of the biggest stories that came out recently was that MLS had generated AI match reports and stuff like that. I know Renee, if he's listening, he was a big advocate. Send your thoughts, all that stuff. It's nice to see an outlet like Fox, the caliber that Fox is, promoting independent media members, because it's almost insulting to me when MLS goes out and throws together an AI generated match report, but doesn't ask people like you or I, or people who are rightfully deserving to have a spot with a match report. And it's a simple thing. And as Tom Boger mentioned, it's not that expensive to go out and get someone who hasn't had a chance yet to get their name out there and put out an article. But I mean, just from your standpoint, even with the World Cup coming here, what does it feel like to have the opportunity to not only share your work and share your name, but also in the whole midst of that AI generated thing, the MLS kind of throwing it in our face?
Yeah, no, it made us feel really valued. And, like for us, I mean, we don't get paid to do this. We do this because we enjoy it. We enjoy covering the team and we want to tell the stories. And so it really was very validating. And I think that there's so many good writers and people in the media out there that it's it's a shame that that MLS is using AI for that. Like, there's so many good media members out there, and the union is blessed to have so many good, especially independent journalists covering the team, and the union do a good job, I think, really helping, promote that, like including the media members. They've been great to Kyle and me. I can speak for that, but
Mhm.
it's just with so many good journalists out there. Why are you doing AI? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's ridiculous, honestly. So there's good uses for AI. As someone who's a teacher, I run
Sure.
into, we have a lot of stuff. I know I have an in-service coming up on like using AI. It's going to be like a whole day, I think. But it's like there's good uses for it, but it shouldn't replace the human element of it. So, it has its place, but
No, and listen,
don't replace the human.
as somebody who is a very, very like I have a lot of writing experience. Obviously, you're a teacher. Of course, I'm a son of a teacher. So we could have our own episode on just AI and writing and the skill set that is writing. We could have our whole separate, maybe in the off season a writing episode. But I think what as Renee mentions here, AI slop at a time when there are tons of soccer writers who need a job, and in a World Cup year is so insulting. But I think, in particular, MLS, of course, competing with NHL, MLB, NBA, NFL, etc. They have had an opportunity to grow the game, and there's been times in this last run of 3 or 4 years that have really just fallen flat. You can look at the best of 3 playoff thing that they have in the first round. I think it's a dumb idea. I think it's bad for the sport. You can throw League Cup in there, just adding congestion for a money grab for a tournament that nobody really cares about. And then you can add in the Apple paywall where it removes the casual fan and the casual soccer fan from watching it because they're not going to spend $90 a year to pay for this stuff. And then it comes to this, like some of these reports, these images that people are sharing on Twitter or social media, it's like you can tell that this AI computer did not watch the game, or I think it was, I can't remember right now the team. There was it mentioned like a supporter group or some sort of mention of something like that, some like small little thing, but the fact was so incredibly wrong because, of course, it's not being fact checked by human. And the problem is, not only is the report being AI generated, and there's not an editor checking that on top of that. So they're just kind of hitting, put a recap of Orlando versus Miami and then just hit enter, send, and put it out there. Who cares if it's accurate or not? And I think that's what also kills me too. It's that nobody's actually checking it after the fact. They just said this is good enough. Who gives a shit? We're not trying to promote this league. Who cares what it says? That's, I think, what bothers me the most, because people still don't, not I don't say people. There's still a large majority of American fans who think soccer's dumb and who don't want to give it a chance. And when you do all that on top of it, it kind of almost validates them, which is the opposite of what we want right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Here comes Kyle. Yeah, so yeah, here comes Kyle. Yeah, no, I agree. And we could have a whole show on the whole, like, people, hating on soccer, but yeah, it does take away just, I think, some of the relevance. It really shows it as being like less smart. Oh, we're just gonna run AI, articles on it now. But yeah, so I think that here's a time to elevate some of these writers as the World Cup is coming. So it's definitely in poor form, in my opinion, the whole AI thing with that.
Yeah, and we'll see how MLS responds to it. We'll see if they throw together any sort of alternatives for it next year, and maybe even listen, even if it's not a paid position, I guarantee people who'd want just their name out there will gladly take a free internship to go out and put their name on there. MLSsoccer.com. So it's the fact that they're doing it is ridiculous. But segueing back into the playoff picture and kind of just wrapping up the show here as we're at an hour and 4 minutes. So Jimmy King, who just won like best Eastern Conference beat writer, by the way, on that Twitter poll, he shared out key dates for MLS Cup playoffs. So of course, decision day is today. The wild card matches are on Wednesday, October 22nd. The round 1 best of 3 series starts on Friday, October 24th, through that Sunday, all the way to November 9th. So for Chicago or Orlando, they'll have a very short break between the Wednesday match and then obviously the round of 3. Conference semifinals are going to be Saturday, November 22nd or Sunday, November 23rd. The conference finals will be the following week on the 29th or the 30th. And then, of course, MLS Cup all the way in December, Saturday, December 6th, which just seems so freaking far away. But that's the playoff picture coming up. We have a long stretch ahead. We still have a good 6 weeks of playoffs to go, which seems like ridiculous. But it kind of goes back to the point with this best of 3 series. It just adds so much more time to the season that really don't need to have. But Jillian, I know Kyle's in the background somewhere. Any final thoughts on your end for the Union's game tonight? Again, I know we didn't talk much about the Union game tonight, but at the same time, there wasn't really a whole lot to talk about. But any final thoughts? Anything that's coming out for you all with your work, and just anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think that Union, I'm not worried from tonight's, I thought that they didn't look horrible, and I'm not worried about how they're going to go into the home matches coming up. So, that being said, it's good to at least get some momentum. And a goal would have been at least a goal. I'm like, come on, guys, don't get shut out. And finish those chances. But again, okay, learn from this and do better. And I'm not worried. But Union 2 tomorrow, 4 p.m. Subaru Park. Kyle and I will be there
Awesome.
covering that match. So definitely can follow us at the One Team We Agree On or on our individual socials for coverage of that. And we've put out some articles. I actually put out 2 today. I have a preview for Union 2's playoff game tomorrow, but also Kyle and I had kind of a collaboration. He went down to training. He talked to Frankie Westfield on
cool.
Thursday. So so I put together an article, Frankie reflecting on his U20 World Cup experience. And so really good stuff from him as well. And, what a season he's had. So it's a good read, I think. So a little collaboration there for us. And of course, we'll have lots of stuff coming out for Union 2 in addition to the Union stuff. So, hopefully Union 2 progress past the first round here tomorrow.
It's actually funny that you mentioned Frankie Westfield, because we talked about this in the last show. Like, I felt so bad for Frankie that he wasn't able to celebrate the Supporter Shield with us. But again,
he talked about that in the interview too a little bit. So
yeah, I think if when he's older and he can look back on his career, he'll say, I was in the World Cup, and any fashion, any type of World Cup is just an incredible honor. And I thought he played well, and he obviously got some significant minutes as well too. Vancouver apparently had a red card. Laborda
it's pretty early, isn't it? In that,
the match just freaking started. I'm trying to load it up on FOTMob. A red card in the 12th minute. No, I'm sorry, 11th minute. Wow, early red card. So pretty significant news there for the Western Conference standings. How that's going to shake up there, and maybe obviously next round, of course, right, with the red card carrying over. Okay, I see the 11th minute. They're great, awesome. Besides that, really quick, the MLS Next Cup playoffs is just a knockout tournament, right? There's no best of 3, anything like that, right? Just elimination.
Yeah, it's just elimination.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so that's it for this show. Again, thank you everybody for joining us. It's a 2-0 victory for Charlotte. Of course, Union end their seasonal loss, but of course, it didn't really make a difference. Our socials are Embraer1323 for myself, Jillian Silly double underscore Jilly. Can't forget the double underscore there. Anything you want for Union coverage next week. Well, I guess we'll see when that match will be for the Union. I'm hoping it's on Sunday, just because I have plans on the 25th, but we'll find out. We should be going live after that show. If it's not me, Jose will take over if I do have that day where I can't. Otherwise, you'll see a match preview for me at some point before that match, whenever it might be, between either Chicago or Orlando. Otherwise, this is the final push for the Union. Again, nothing too big to take away from today's match. I'm happy. The most important thing, that everybody was healthy, and that's about it. But otherwise, follow Jillian and Kyle at the One Team We Agree On for their Union 2 coverage. I know you guys are going to be busy tomorrow night, so I'll let you get some rest. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for everybody for watching. Go Union.